Hi and welcome to Project Diaries. There's no intro in today's video because I want to get down to it as soon as possible, but I first want to thank everybody. On my last video, I did not have a single bad comment on there. I think there's over 600 comments on that video alone, and I've had thousands of different messages from people either offering their help, sharing stories, or just trying to empathize with going through similar situations. It's been phenomenal. Now, I know in that video I said that I didn't have a supportive network. Now, I meant that in my real life, but I did not understand how supportive you guys were. You know, I'm very hesitant about releasing videos that aren't based on gardening or tutorials, but it's just shown me just how amazing the Project Diaries community is. This year I'm not able to grow anything. You can see I've not been in the garden for a while. So many people have come forward to try and offer me help, and I thank you so much. But I want to do something that I wouldn't usually do unless situations were really bad. Now, if you think my last video was bad enough, you want to wait to hear for this one. I think I need to lawyer up. If there's anybody out there that is a lawyer that can help me with legal advice or a pro bono case or a no-win, no-fee, I've never done this before. So let me talk you through the beginning. If you remember, 4 years ago, I was offered this operation. I've been wanting it since 2015, but because of the Tory cuts and various things that were going on within the NHS, now I know people are going to get triggered, you know. If you're upset about me mentioning the NHS, they have saved my life more times than anything. They have allowed me to become the person that you know. I do not have a problem with the NHS. I have a problem with the government underfunding it to the point where it's now making people that weren't sick. I'm very, very sick. I may not look it, but I've been through hell and back. Now, before you start trolling me in the comments, I want you to look at this chart carefully and see just how much the Tories have underfunded the NHS over the past 12 years. Now, Boris was right when he said he's putting more money in the NHS than anybody else over the past 10 years, but that was his government. Look at it in comparison to Labour. This deliberate underfunding of the NHS is the reason why cases like mine are increasing all across the UK. So I can't wait to see people arguing against this chart. So I had this operation 4 years ago, and the clinician or the consultant said it would be 4 weeks lengthening, 4 weeks strengthening. Total gaslit. It was a lie. Even when I was in hospital, they tried to discharge me without an aftercare package, and I tried to fight that, but they still kicked me out. I was then supposed to receive physio to help, deep tissue therapy to help strengthen my muscles and tendons while my bone was being lengthened. This didn't happen, and I was fighting all sorts. The GP was refusing me pain meds that would work. They had no idea who was going to look after me. I had no idea how my stitches were going to come out, or who was looking after me, or when I was going to receive this treatment. But I was being forced to do this machine that was lengthening my bone. Now, this is where they broke my leg in 4 places and inserted 11 metal pins. Now, this operation was said to fix my limp and eliminate my back pain at the time. But with miscommunications within the NHS, I didn't get any physio, which was supposed to be weekly after I was discharged from hospital. So I was being put through a lot of torture and a lot of pain. Despite my leg being deliberately broken in 4 different places, there was no information or aftercare given to me after discharge from hospital. I wasn't given any pain medication, and appointments to see my GP were taking over 5 weeks. And I spent every day for over a month trying to find out what was going on, but just kept hitting dead ends.
And the referral that we received told us it was non-urgent.
Really?
Yeah, so that referral came from the hospital and it said non-urgent.
So this is where I'm at for apparently non-urgent care. They broke my leg in 4 places, they inserted a metal pin going down the centre of my bone and added 10 other screws to hold it in place. I then had to use an external machine 3 times a day that pulled my bone apart. But apparently this torture doesn't need emergency care.
So for a routine referral, we would have up to 6-week wait anyway, and that's me being fully staffed.
Oh my goodness. Now, 2 months in, I became housebound and they still couldn't give me home care. If you guys can't continue the treatment, where do I go from there? Do you pass me on to referrals, or?
That's a really good question, and I don't have an answer for you because there's very limited therapy support in our community services.
So they gave me this operation and told me it's imperative that I have weekly physio afterwards. But instead of my consultant helping me, he then denied we even had that conversation.
We need to go back to BSUH and say you need more support from them at their outpatient clinic if you can get there.
So that then took another few more weeks for them to sort that mess out, so I had to teach myself physio and do what I could at home. I used a dressing gown belt to create tension in order for me to push down and hopefully stretch my muscles. All of these tendons are getting tighter and tighter. Now a physio is supposed to manipulate my leg and stretch out my tendons, but because that can't happen, I'm trying to use a carrier bag. This helps me pull my leg backwards and forwards in places that I can't do myself. This really needs deep tissue therapy and hands-on care, but I have to do what I can. I'll probably speed this one up. Now they gave me no advice after being discharged from hospital, so I had no idea whether this was the right thing or the wrong thing to do. All I knew is that I was desperate to get my leg straight, regardless to how much pain it was going to put me through. As you can see, I'm already losing a lot of muscle mass. All I needed was someone to manipulate my leg and help with my knee, but all I've got was consultants, conversations and convoluted reasons why I couldn't get treatment. I also used weights and an oven glove in order to pull my leg down. But again, this is really dangerous and should really be done under controlled situations. Especially with a healthcare professional, because I can now start feeling damage within my knee if I don't start doing this. I then received physio around the 6-week mark, which was out of my home. I was becoming bedbound because my leg was bending so much. So despite the fact they're still doing operations, there's no communication between those departments of surgery and aftercare. And even if there was good communication, there's not enough staff that trained enough to give me the care that I need. Without this care straight after leaving hospital, this meant that my tendons and muscles starting to tight up. I couldn't even straighten my leg or weight bear. It was basically just, it was going like that because the bone was lengthening, but everything else was getting tighter. So at the 6-week mark, I turned up for the physio and they just didn't know what operation I had. They didn't know what treatment that I needed. And there was this conflict of interest between the surgeon and the physio themselves. The surgeon told me I wasn't weight bearing. Apparently the report to the physio was saying that I was 20% weight bearing. And while the NHS is now ticking off boxes to say that I had these appointments, they were more trying to figure out what was happening. Now while they were trying to sort this problem out, I still wasn't getting weekly hands-on treatment. But according to the NHS, because I was turning up, I was apparently getting treatment. But when we finally got the right information, collaborated with the surgeon, this weekly session turned into every 4 weeks or every 3 weeks. They got more and more away. My pain was going through the roof to the point where I did become bedbound. Like I said, I was bedbound for 10 months and I couldn't walk for 18 months. I then got a home team who were useless. They just kept giving me spreadsheets and telling me what I can do at home. Instead of giving me hands-on care and massage, he basically just kept giving me spreadsheets and telling me I was doing great by myself. But again, he didn't seem to read my notes and see the fact that my left leg was paralysed and I couldn't do any of these exercises. There doesn't seem to be enough qualified staff to give hands-on treatment within the NHS anymore, and it all seems to be down to the patient to do their own care. But you can see by this clip I was getting really ill, but they couldn't even give me a nurse to change my dressings. They even made me do that myself. Now at this point I actually thought I was dying. I was in so much pain, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. And I went through 3 different GPs because they were refusing to give me medication that worked, because it was deemed too expensive for the NHS to give me the pain medication that was working. I couldn't take the pain or the bureaucracy anymore, so this is me after I took an overdose. But thankfully it wasn't my time, but after then people then started to realise just how much pain I was in. And when I finally found a doctor willing to give me the prescriptions for the medication that I need, Brexit hit and we had a massive shortage across the UK. So I've managed to speak to another doctor and he's prescribed me what I need, but he sent it to the pharmacy and they've run out. And they've called all the other pharmacies in the city and they've run out as well. So I had broken bones that were being pulled apart daily, I had no treatment and now no pain medication. But some of the treatment was meaning that I needed to fully extend my leg as much as possible, and someone was going to come in and massage the muscles and the tendons, but how a spreadsheet, I can't do it myself. So that then left another 6 weeks of me going through pain using this machine. So this is the machine I have to use 3 times a day, and it's basically pulling my bone apart. As you can see here, I've got 12 metal pins in my leg, but that centre pin is linked to a magnet that's pulling my bone. The bone will then calcify on the inside, lengthening my leg and fixing my limb. But without anyone to manipulate my leg or do the massage on my tendons and muscles, they're just staying tight like a rubber band. My clinic physio then went on holiday for 3 weeks, and my home physio still couldn't do anything. I had no choice but to complain about both of these therapists because they simply couldn't give me the treatment that I needed. Now, after a few months, I then got a very long letter explaining this. They basically admitted there was no correspondence with the hospital and the physiotherapy department after my discharge, which is a huge error considering the type of operation I had. Meaning that the first time they heard from me was 3 weeks after my operation, just because my surgeon did a follow-up that I requested that he do. Now, this is an apology admitting their error, but nothing happened after this. I also find it comedic that they use excellent care at the heart of the community during an apology letter. So even though I was under 2 different departments, I still wasn't getting adequate care from either of them. So then the NHS started accusing me, chucking me accusations why I was under 2 departments. Rather than understanding that I wasn't getting enough care, they didn't care. They wanted me to pick one or the other. Now, I'm not sure what happened during this time, but the home guy that was useless was thankfully taken off my case. I was then amazed to see a team turn up at my house, but they were all students. Some were even on their first day and never done any physio before. So even though I had a 45-minute session, 20 minutes of that was explaining what they were going to do to me. And the main therapist had done her back in, so she was relying on the students to do my treatment. Now, I even ended up training some of them myself, and at least I was getting the treatment and the relief. It was incredible. So I then picked the home team. But because I could get to the other clinic, they then tried to refuse me the team that was working and made me go to the clinic. At this point, I was just hopping on one leg. I was on crutches. I'm still on crutches. Now, because I was basically hopping on my right side and weight bearing on that side for 18 months, there is now damage to my right ankle. There was absolutely nothing wrong with my right leg before this operation, but now I'm having ankle, knee and hip problems on my right side. So like I say, I went to PALS, which is the complaint system within the NHS. They then sent me to the advocacy service, who sent me to Ombudsman, who then went up to the NHS Complaints Committee. And because of my dyslexia, I then got my MP, who gave me a caseworker and worked with me side by side to turn up to this meeting. Now, he was an absolute gem because I'd already been through these systems by myself, but they all gave me the runaround and I didn't get anywhere in over a year. But when you got the government behind you, it seems to have a bit more sway. As soon as I signed the data protection form, he was able to access all of my medical records and get so much further than I possibly could by myself. The case took absolutely months to compile all the evidence in one place, but we finally got a meeting with the NHS Complaints Committee. But from start to finish it took 10 months, mainly because the NHS Complaints Committee asked for an extension to give me more answers. I couldn't believe that after 2 years of fighting I might actually be getting somewhere. And with the committee's help they might actually be able to put the pieces together and get me some care. But when we finally got the date and arrived to the meeting, my case file was empty. And they had no idea who we were. All they knew was my name. So it was more like an interrogation, really. So they had the head of physio and the head of the NHS Complaints Committee in front of me as a panel, and I was there with my MP. And all the physio kept doing was bringing his ego into it, saying that he's had 25 years experience, blah, 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 blah. You know, why was I under two departments? And my argument was, in your 25 years, how many times have you treated somebody who's had this precise pin tibial lengthening? His answer was none. Shut him down completely. I've gone to the highest point of the NHS and won. That then allowed me to get 6 sessions. Now, I explained that my cortisol levels were high in the mornings, my pain levels were at their highest point because of dehydration, and that they should give me afternoon sessions. This was all agreed within the meeting. It then took a few more weeks for them to give me some correspondence, and I think it then took another month for me to get the care. When I got the appointment, it was for 9 AM. I was in agony. I could barely get there. And then the guy that was treating me had no idea what I needed. He was really rough. He ended up breaking my skin because he wasn't using enough oil when he was trying to massage the tension out of my calf muscle and out my back. They also agreed to give me hydrotherapy sessions, which I did get, but it wasn't in my hometown. We had to drive over 4 hours just to use this pool for 25 minutes. So I've just finished my 3rd hydrotherapy session. The staff here are absolutely amazing, and the hydrotherapy itself does really help me. But it's this up to 4-hour journey, round trip there and back, that is absolutely killing my back and the rest of my body, and it's more detrimental for me to make this journey here to do the hydrotherapy than it is to spend 25 minutes working it. So after 3 sessions I had to quit hydrotherapy because I couldn't do a 4-hour trip. Now every time I moved I was in so much pain, so I got to the point where I begged my surgeon to take the pins out, even though it was 4 months early. They were supposed to be in for a year. But thanks to my nutritarian diet, I was growing bone quicker than my surgeon had ever seen before, so he agreed to take them out. I thought I was going to have another nightmare day, but I got another phone call, and it was from my doctor's receptionist. They finally booked me in to have my pins out. It's the best news ever. I'm so happy. I've got a pre-op next week, and it's still going to be a month away, but I finally get these pins out and I might be able to get my life back to normal. And then global situation happened. So now the NHS are trying to say that they've given me 40 sessions, which is a lie. They might have booked 40 appointments, but a lot of those were cancelled and a lot of those were just arguing and negotiating the system. I think I've had about 6 sessions that worked, but because they were so broken up, it didn't matter. My leg was at 22 degrees. But when I was getting the good care, my leg would go down to 15 degrees, and if it was continued, hopefully that my leg would be able to straighten. So here's the letter to my surgeon from the physiotherapy department saying I've had 40 sessions, which is untrue. Now I've asked them to prove this in writing by sending me dates of the appointments, but this hasn't happened in 8 months and I don't think it's ever going to happen. Now they've also CC'd a Dr. Anderson, GP. I have no idea who this person is, but I'm really glad they're talking about holistic care. Mainly because I've been trying to get that type of care since my operation back in 2018. But since this letter was sent back in November 2021, all I've seen is a conveyor belt of consultants that don't know what to do with me and just put me back in the system. So they're now basically telling me there is no long-term care and no holistic care within the NHS. So for over 2 years now I've been trying to get back in the system and trying to get the care, but the NHS are now saying that because it's been so long since I've had the operation, I now fall into long-term care, and because of the Tory government there is no long-term care under the NHS. So here's a letter from the physiotherapy team. This is a complete summary of why they discharged me. So reading from the highlights, it says, I have attended regularly for my rehabilitation over the past 12 months. That's a straight out lie from the start. Sometimes they were weekly, sometimes they were fortnightly, sometimes they were even 3 weekly or monthly. He then says I continued treatment between the 24th of September 2019 up until the 19th of November 2019. Now that makes it sound like I'm getting loads of therapy in that whole session, but I saw him twice. So let's just say they weren't regular. He then said my knee movement was static at 20 degrees, which is another lie because we've actually had it down to 10 degrees with proper treatment. They then considered spine surgery because the 20 degrees was making my pelvis twist, causing upper and lower back pain. Now the letter says the surgeon didn't think I was a candidate for spine surgery, but he basically said the surgery was so dangerous I may end up in a wheelchair. He then basically admits that the physiotherapy wasn't enough and that I was paying for my own chiropractic treatment and massage privately. He then obviously says it has a significant impact on my mental health because I was bedbound for 10 months, had vitamin D deficiency, healthcare professionals lying and gaslighting me, and my GP basically just wanted me to stay on morphine because he felt completely powerless to get me any other treatment, and nobody was listening to me. If I had one person on my side, my mental health wouldn't have been so bad. Now I love this bit. Lee has had extensive input from the physiotherapy team, which is basically go home and do the treatment you're already doing yourself, and here's another spreadsheet. Now this letter was compiled by reports from the physiotherapy team that I don't have access to. I've tried numerous times, but after every session I assume that they write a report. And the problem I'm receiving now is the fact that all the conversations I'm having with consultants and doctors and surgeons, they're all face to face. There's no proof on what I said to them. A lot of it is now hearsay. And in their reports they're failing to report what's been really happening. Which is why I've now got my MP involved. Well, he's been involved on and off for the past 4 years, but we're starting again because of the global situation. It's now postponed things. So what's happened is the time to sue has now gone past. You're only allowed to sue within 4 years. But my surgeon has now released this letter. So to summarise, he basically says I've had multiple problems accessing physiotherapy post-operatively, resulting in a stiff knee. He then states there are improvements when I do get therapy and that it does go down to 10 degrees, basically confirming that if I got the right treatment I might be able to straighten my leg. He then states however I continue to have problems accessing physiotherapy and that maybe we should take a holistic approach. This letter was sent November 2021 and I haven't seen a single consultant or a physiotherapist since this time. I'm now only seeing my surgeon every 6 months and I hadn't seen him until this week. But he ended up giving me some of the worst news ever. I've been so focused on fighting to get treatment, I never considered the fact that this damage could be permanent. He's pretty much admitted this is the case, and to move forward we're going to have to go backwards. If you've seen the history of my health video, you'll know that I had built up shoes many years ago as a starting point for this procedure. But my surgeon's now admitted that due to the problems with physio, this operation is a failure. Instead of lengthening my leg, it's actually made it shorter, and the only way to do this and to counteract the problem is to give me built up shoes again. So 2 years later, I've now got these shoes. Look at the size of that. This is exactly what we did 4 years ago before this operation. So they've pretty much admitted they've wasted 4 years of my life. That's 4 years of chronic pain and fatigue. 4 years of fighting every day to an underfunded faceless system. 4 years of doctors trying to pump me full of cheap pharmaceuticals because they know there isn't any hands-on care. And 4 years of lies and misguided hope that never came. So I'm not sure if that's a starting point for me to start a lawsuit. Now I've gone through no win no fee. I've gone through several different solicitors, and to be honest with you, they make me nervous. They don't seem like they've got my best interests at heart. Obviously because of my dyslexia, they were sending me contracts in lawyer speech, so I then had to go to the Citizens Advice Bureau, who were amazing. They reacted really quickly, helped me break down in lawyer speech, and even they were nervous about the contracts that those solicitors were trying to get me to sign. They were trying to get me to sign up for an insurance that basically secured their payment, and it didn't really feel like they were looking into my case. It was more about them being reassured that they were going to get paid. Now a friend of mine has just won his case. I mean, he's in a lot worse situation than me. His case taken 5 years, and the NHS basically left him bedbound, and he's feeding through a tube. But even he said that the no win no fee situation was one of the worst things he's ever been through. This is a man that's feeding through a tube has said that. So I don't know if it's an avenue I want to go to, but I've done everything in my power, and I've just come back from a meeting with my local MP, and we're now taking all of my health stuff to the health minister in Parliament. It's got that bad. So they've now created this system, or this situation, where their negligence and ignorance has now caused me to have significant pain in my knee. I'm very restricted in my mobility. I can't stand up straight. That's now putting pressure on my right leg, because the right leg has to bend to counterbalance the bend in my left leg, which is putting pressure on both my ankles, my hips, my spine, my pelvis, and it's causing all sorts of problems. I don't know where else to go with this. Obviously this is way more detailed. I can't go into too much because of legal reasons, but I'm just wondering if there's anybody out there that might be able to help me. If you can you please contact me via email? Maybe just put lawyer advice as the subject matter and email me at myprojectdiaries@gmail.com, and hopefully we can try and figure out what's going on here, because the NHS are now refusing me care, and they're trying to tell me that I've either got to go private or find other means to fix what they've broken. Now I filmed this video a couple of months ago, but just after doing so I received this letter. Dear Lee, we are writing to you as you are currently on a waiting list in the physiotherapy department. We are sorry you have been waiting a long time for this appointment. The pandemic has caused severe pressure on the NHS services and unfortunately long waiting lists. We want to check our list is up to date and we have the right contact details for you. But I have letter evidence that you discharged me before the pandemic. What is this about? They literally have no idea what they're doing with my care, and they've also signed it off as the outpatients booking manager. What's your name, mate? So I filled out the online survey and basically stated the fact that no, my condition didn't magically get better itself and that I'm still in need of physio. But I've already been down this road several times before. All I'm going to do is wait months to see a consultant. The consultant's going to see how long I've been on the books for and tell me that there's no care for me. I don't know. I don't know where else to go with this. I don't know what else to do with this. It's been horrific. I've desperately tried to show the happier side, and like I've always said, when I shut the shed door, I leave my life outside and I try and be as happy and positive as I can. But it's getting to a point now where I can't do gardening. I can't barely walk. I'm in pain constantly, and I've been through loops and loops and loops. My GP that was helping me, he quit. He phoned me on New Year's Eve at 8:30 in the evening, New Year's Eve, to tell me that he was quitting because of mental health problems. The NHS is a mess, and it's affecting everybody who's involved. I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to do this. Now I have absolutely no idea how to finish this video, and if some of it was confusing, you can check out the links here. Also, for those people that have been really supporting me on Patreon and PayPal, I'm hugely apologetic at the fact that I haven't been able to get back to anyone this year at all, but I absolutely love you forever. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I'll see you in the next one.